then people say, these guys are trying to destroy the system. And then, these are the reasons why.
So, okay, so you said the exact thing I was going to ask you. So you don't think that Bernie Sanders has that quality, that revolutionary quality? If, let's say, he got elected, do you think his policy would be reasonable, or do you think he would make some pretty drastic changes in the system?
But how can he make these changes? This is not a dictatorship. This is still a democracy.
I know. Yeah, I know.
Whomever.
That's true.
Right.
That's true.
It's not like the winner takes all, and now you do what I say.
That's why, I feel like this system. I mean, we have the powers that kind of regulate each other, the checks and balances. But I feel sometimes if you have the president, and if the president wants to make positive changes, but he doesn't have the Congress, backing him or supporting him, then I feel like the country's gonna end up being stuck in a limbo, and nothing's gonna. It's gonna become that power game.
Yeah, it's been the truth for years.
Exactly. So, do you think the how do you say alternancia? The alternance of power. Do you think that's something that is healthy? When there's such a evident polarization, and that happens, like, for example, in Brazil right now, we have Lula, the left-wing guy, being elected, but the Congress, most of the people that got elected as senators, or people that compose the Congress in general, they are mostly opposition from the federal leader, right? From the president.
Right.
So now I see Brazil stuck, because anything that the president will try to do, it's gonna be stopped in the Congress. It's not gonna. It's just, that's how it's been.
Right.
It's like that power play.
So what do you?
So I'm just like, it makes me question the system, and if it's just, if it's healthy for society to if the checks and balances are to an extent something that is positive, or if it creates also negative outcomes, And I'm not saying that it shouldn't be checks and balances, but the way it's being done, it's a little different here. In Brazil, we have the three powers: the judiciary, executive, and legislative, right? That kind of balance each other out. And then you have something that could be considered a fourth power, which is the army, right?
Oh,
the military force.
How is that a fourth power? They like, I don't like what you guys are doing. Coup! Get out of the office.
Yeah, well, that's happened in Brazil before. It's an military intervention.
Military intervention is like a fancy word for coup d'état. Like, it's a state.
Not really.
It's like usurping power by military force.
Well, in Brazil we had the military being in power for maybe, like, I would say maybe like 15 years.
But who elected them?
Nobody elected them. It was an intervention.
Exactly.
Because
so they stole power.
In
other words, they stole the power.
I mean, I don't know how to describe the full story, but there's a lot there. There's a lot there. Anyways, but they were able to reinstitute democracy, right?
Who were they? The military?
Not the military. Well, I mean, everybody that composed the political system at the time. But we had a administration, a
temporary
military that was composed by
rule.
military personnel, generals or whatever. They were the ones running the country. But anyway, it's a very extensive history, but in Brazil, that's how we see the powers consisting in those three powers that I mentioned, and the military kind of like, hey, there's a constitutional imbalance here, or institutional imbalance here, let's calm down, let's reestablish order. They play that part as well, kind of like here you have federalism, every state is independent, and that kind of counterbalances the federal power as well, because every state has the freedom to instate their own policies and legislation.
Hmm.
So,
But when there's like federal law, then you can't, right? Because
Well,
that supersedes whatever.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Otherwise, what's
But
the?
I think the Constitution here of the United States kind of makes that separation very
Clearly?
very clear. Yeah, and the federal government cannot interfere in the state
sovereignty.
sovereignty. Sort of. I don't really know exactly where, but I think there is like a constitutional
Right. Like
you know,
separation, you know.
yeah, something that is
Guarantees the,
unchangeable.
okay.
Uma lei pétrea. I don't know how to say, like
Sure.
something that
Constitution is good enough.
doesn't move, doesn't change, you
Yeah.
know?
Like the Constitution.
Yeah. So that's why I feel like the guy from Florida that is more right wing,
Hmm.
he conflicts a lot with the federal government, because
Right,
they don't share the same values, and you see they're always clashing.
Right.
And Ron DeSantis is very decisive, you know, and he's like, no, here in Florida we're gonna do things this way, and then he usually opposes what the federal government is doing, and I don't know to what extent that is a power game or to what extent that he's really trying to, but I don't know. Florida seems to be striving. I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Florida man strives in Florida.
Florida man, yeah, but Florida it's an interesting one.
Yeah. Well, you turned me on to this idea of smaller government.
What?
Yeah, you know, you brought that to my attention.
Just kidding.
And
He said I turned you on.
yeah, I'll turn you. Yeah, that's this expression. It's valid. It's valid.
Just kidding. Go.
But so it's I understand the appeal, because the bigger the government, the bigger chances of at every layer of government that corruption can like seep in. So if you have to have, you know, one person doing a job of anything, it's easy to monitor what this person is doing. But if you have like a sphere upon a sphere, and then you have to hire people to make sure that these people are doing the right work, this spends money. It's like it's not very efficient just to keep the government working as it should, because it's really easy when people are not looking to just, you know, embezzle some funds here, not really do the work there, get too much budget, and we don't use it, so we gonna. It's a misallocation of funds, and everybody pays for this because everybody pays taxes.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand some appeal to less government, because at the end of the day, if you think about it, the presidency and the big laws that come out of Washington don't really, most of the time, they don't affect your day-to-day life. In other situations, kind of like this Roe v. Wade reversal, which comes out of the Supreme Court, blah, 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 it kind of affects a lot of people all at once. Other things, you know, but the vast majority of things that happen in Washington doesn't have a direct correlation with who's going to, you know, plug the pothole down the street, or your, you know, I don't know, like who's going to build some electricity here, or those kinds of more community-based policies that they work better at a more local level. You know, it's even lower than the governor.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand that if you start taking away the big government right to pass policy and to do things, it might seem like there's going to be a big improvement, but at the same time, really, how much of this policy making was actually affecting you in your day-to-day, in your daily commute, in your daily, you know, struggles? I don't think there's going to be a lot. There's a lot of importance to elect the president, and there's a lot of you know, not a lot of hype. Who's going to be the president?
Right.
But these are very, very big decisions that do influence a little bit into every American's life, and a lot of times the world's life, because America's policy is a little bit like the world's policy, or at least the Western side. Hello everybody, and thank you for watching until the end. This has been Woke Wars, and I hope you liked our conversation. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe, and drop a comment down below. Tell us what you'd like to hear us talk about next.